They're going to invite Sister Sheila Kinsey to come and speak to us. Sheila has come to us from Rome to be with us today, where she is the Executive Co-Secretary of the Justice, Peace and Integrity of Creation Commission for the Union of Superior Generals, the USG in Rome, and for the International Union of Superior Generals, the UISG in Rome. She serves as the coordinator of the UISG campaign Hope for the Planet, and she's going to share with us today a little bit of her experience of working in Rome, tell us a little bit about Hope for the Planet and what it's about, and to share with us her experience as a member of a religious congregation. Sister Sheila.
Okay, thank you very much. Always good to working. When I nod, you're going to go for it. Okay, very good. I'm delighted to be here with you, to have an audience that's so engaged in this process. It's just wonderful. So thank you for that commitment and openness to what we're going to discuss. In the next slide, I'll talk about the commitment that my community has made in the province of the United States. And just to, I think it's important to kind of give you a concept out of which I am coming and how I then engage the world and how I interact with all the religious communities for which I have responsibility. So in our commitment to say we have disengaged from fossil fuels, we can say with integrity that we have no current investments in fossil fuels. And then we have also made the policy that we will not continue to invest in any sort of fossil fuels. And this was an urgency because of climate change. We see the crisis there, and we want to deepen our commitment to care for our common home. So when the announcement was made out from the Global Catholic Climate Movement, we were one of the 9 that had mentioned that we were in divesting of fossil fuels. So how did we get to that place? So the context needs to go way back to Vatican II. At the end of Gaudium et Spes, they talked about putting a rooster on the top of that spiritual console. And the rooster was to see the needs of the church, to have the heart for compassion, to make judgments on what needed to be done in the world, and the hands to do something about it. And so that had a major effect on many religious congregations, to begin to look at what are the roots that we have that we need to be looking at. So then what was the path then of the Franciscans after Vatican II is it was not only about the services that we were providing, but it was how we were providing. What kind of message, what kind of witness is being shared with the things that we are doing. So the witness and the advocacy was critical when we began to examine what it is that we are about. So we came to a new understanding of our ministries, and we became to deal with a new sense of mission. Now, as church people, we're about promoting the kingdom of God, the reign of God. So you have to translate that into your different kinds of ministries. So we had 2 major ministries, healthcare and affordable housing. And this mission statement has served us throughout the years. It's in the Wheaton Franciscan system. It's committed to human and community development in ourselves and in our health and shelter services. This was way back before Laudato Si was even written. So you can see with Pope Francis moving again with the movement of Vatican II that this is coming alive for us in our church today. So at that time, we had 2016, 100 sites for our healthcare system, 14 of them being complexes of healthcare units, 70 of them being clinics, and then we also had in our affordable housing portfolio over 2,600 affordable housing units, and we're in the process of engagement of 1,200 more in 8 states. So initially we're looking at Illinois, Wisconsin, Iowa, Colorado. So that's the expanse of our community and where we were really integrating the whole idea of mission with these services. So understanding mission is very critical. So you're looking at what are the needs of the times that you're going to have to address. What's the context, the society, the community, your organization, who you need to be working with, and your energy. What are you going to do? What are the activities, and what kind of resources do you have to really build that forward? And up here you see one of our healthcare units, one of our hospitals, LEED certified. So you need to be getting into what is the leadership in the environment. and in the energy sources and your carbon emissions, and what kind of effect are you having on the communities, and are your places lovely, beautiful? Are they healing when they want to come into them? So we need to be looking at all of the aspects that are there. So looking at the methodology of social justice, see, judge, act, which see of the eyes of Christ, to judge with the heart of Christ, and then to do something with our hands. This is kind of the actions that took place. So we realized that we were alienated from society, and the people that we were working with were also alienated. So we had to look at what are our needs of ourselves and what are the needs of others. And we need to look at healing at many levels within community structures and committing ourselves to forming communities and structures which were whole, free, and loving. So we were putting a heart into what it is of the services that we were providing. So how do we judge this? How do we promote then the kingdom of God, which is the next slide, is that we needed to be looking at our church teachings. Back in Matthew 25, our services to the poor. And then the directives that were coming specifically for our health care, the statements that were coming out of our popes, we had to integrate that into the services because we needed a depth and a breadth for the services that we provided. And again, what kind of impact does it have on us? And that what we are doing is a real witness to what it is that we say. We are walking our talk for sure. And then the action then, really respecting the dignity of each person, having creation of communities of caring, and developing both ourselves personally and professionally, and wanting all those who are in service with us to have the same possibilities. So we looked at quality jobs. Jobs are important. So come along with Pope Francis here. So we've already been working, it seems like, on the same lines. Pope Francis comes on the scene. As you were saying, it's just bringing everything to the fore. And he talks about environmental and having both the economy and the social dimensions, that we have to be putting those together, and that everything is interconnected. And we need to combat poverty by also looking at nature. So we need to be respecting the dignity of all creation. And of course, as a Franciscan, that certainly is true to our very hearts. So we needed to bring that forward. And then, about a year ago, another document came out that I think many of the Bursars here has received, Economy at the Service of Our Charism and Mission. And he really has asked us to seriously look at our financial structures, how we now are being engaged as religious persons in this time and these needs that are before us, and what difference is it that we can make. So he said that our economic structures are not neutral. We either commit ourselves to building relationships of justice and solidarity, or we're doing them with exclusion and rejection. So that document very much builds upon the statements from Laudato Si. The thing about our Pope Francis, you think he keeps saying the same thing, but his doctrine, his message always has a different twist. So he's helping us understand our doctrinal natures, our doctrine from our church in a whole new, different way. So this was an incredibly magnificent prophetic document, having us as religious really look at it. And he calls for us then an ecological conversion, which includes both individuals and communities, calling us to really network with one another, get out of the silos, look at those people that you can begin to work with, look at the ways that you are interconnecting with all generations. And the interesting thing as we look back at our documents, as I was praying for this, is that the same message was in our documents. So I'm encouraging us as religious to go back to some of those documents, and we'll find the foundations we need to go forward. But the frontier is different. The frontiers are different, but we need a solid foundation. And as you can see, when I have the words HCD, that's our own document for our mission statement. So we were already talking about not only the healthcare and the housing, but what about all creation? And are we including them in our family? And what kind of respect and dignity do we have? And this is part of our land. We have prairie grass. We have people we have to rejuvenate that every year. We're taking care of the nature in whatever way is possible. And on our complex, about 206 houses, affordable housing units, our rehab hospital, and 12 units for persons with HIV and AIDS. So that's integration, listening to the cry of the earth and the cry of the poor. So responsible stewardship. In the same document, he talks about us being good stewards, being responsible for all these varied graces that we have, so that we are to be about exercising for the common good, as we had said in our own mission of human and community development. Here over in the far right, we had received 35 awards for all related to the environment. We were planting more trees on our property, and this year was on debt cancellation. So we had the sisters up there signing and saying we are for the debt cancellation, and actually our name was written in the proposal that came from our representative, talking about our persistence and our caring about the needs for persons to have the debts canceled. So again, this is the inclusion of the integration that's so important. So we have the human face of our formation for the economic nature, and it's both incarnate spirituality, which has us reach out to the poor, and as we talked about before in our own document preceding many, many years before, that we're about reconciling our differences, and that we're about reaching out to the community as brothers and sisters, and we're trying to create a border of working together. So all of that is how we invest our money and moving forward. And the need to inculturate shared responsibility for ourselves and for others, and that we have to involve the whole person in the way that we integrate with one another, and we have to look at group activities. So it's not enough to do good things by ourselves, is that we need to be working together. So here's way early on in 2008, we were part of about 50 different countries that were doing an Earth Summit. It was kind of really celebrating the Earth Charter around the globe. We were part of that. And that we need to be engaged with one another, and that we feel, based on the human and community development that we had for our institutions and where we were, that we need to be about reconciling the differences. We need to be about it being instruments, truly instruments of peace. So many religious congregations, as expressions of the church, can adhere to some of these very same areas. That ministries serve the needs of the times. That we had social investments. All of us had socially responsible investments. People making those decisions for us. That we had those screens to do that. That we had to look at transition. So one thing to say against fossil fuels and to look at areas where those jobs are in fossil fuels, but they need jobs. So what are the alternatives that we are thinking about going towards at the same time? My community said we will divest only because I know you're going to be working on the transitional phases. So that was very, very important. And also the impact of the economy. Jobs are important. If you want to deal with poverty, it's having employment for people. So we found ourselves then in a new place as a congregation. So we began to seriously look at what it was that we were doing. And we began to look now, in 2016, at the signs of the time, and we began to look at our resources, the needs of the world, and what kind of direction now do we need to be finding ourselves in terms of our service to the world. So what kind of direction is important here? And what we decided to do in 2016, I mentioned that we had the healthcare and housing. As a community meeting, we decided to transition out of all of our ministries. They were in the black, they were very strong and foundationed, and the human and community development had been actualized in specific behaviors for our employees. They didn't have to be Catholic, but they had to be able to carry through the Christian principles. It was a very, very strong foundation that we decided to transition. And what we decided to do then is to also create a private ministry foundation, ministry fund, to carry on the legacy to the new needs of the world and to get out there and find out what needs to be done in our communities in any way that we could make a difference. And we came up with these 4 areas of values. And you're going to see again the connection that we have with what was done with the economy at the service of terrorism and mission and where we were finding ourselves. And we were not, in a sense, looking at these documents. We found that we were in sync. And I'm saying that I think many of us here are in sync. We just need the words to be able to say that. Okay. So collaboration with others. Sense of integrity. How are we walking the talk? But how are the services also being delivered in a sense of integrity? The courage to make decisions, ask for forgiveness if necessary, but get out there. We want to make a difference. And the peacemaking. All of these aspects had to be a part of what we were doing. So we had these gifts. It was our responsibility to share and to make a difference in the world. So the ministry fund now, moving forward in the new sense of human and community development, is about taking care of some of the same needs, but in an entirely different way. Not about the institutions, but about the needs and being organic about moving out and seeing what needs to take place here. Refugees and immigrants, certainly these were people that were in our housing and taking care of our services. Root causes of violence, the care of creation, women and children in any vulnerable situation, and health and dental care, underserved areas. So we were out in the community finding these things and really seeing what ways can we help other organizations do the job that they need to be doing. So there's an urgent need, as Pope Francis says, to develop policies so that in the next few years, the emissions of carbon dioxide and other highly polluting gases can be drastically reduced. Okay, so we did the divesting. We dealt with the highly polluting fossil fuels, as has been mentioned before, and all the damage that they can do. But there are different categories, and somebody's been talking about that, and this, of course, Bill Gibbon has been mentioned before. But there are categories which you can choose in terms of divesting. We, of course, have no investments in that. But you can have a binding commitment to do a full investment. You can do a partial one, which is to invest across certain classes of fossil fuels. The coal and the tar sands, which depending upon the area that you're from, if that's a way that they're getting at the fossil fuel. Coal only. And so there are many choices. Those of you are that in the financial sector know very much about all of those that are options as well. So there's been many reasons why religious and dioceses have divested. So I just mentioned a few. So I'm trying to say that we're not alone in this. I'm honoring many of the religious congregations, but only choosing a few of these. The School Sisters of Notre Dame, the divisions, seeing the evidence of the degradation of the earth, the crisis of our time. This is from their statement, a future that is based on more renewable energies. The Society of the Sacred Heart made the idea that the total integrity of creation, we have to respond to that and to their needs. And the Mercenary Missionaries of Ritz talked about the concern of climate change because as religious congregations, as international religious congregations, we know what's happening in the island areas. We know what's happening in parts of the world, and we are hearing those stories, and we want to make a difference in our ministries. Okay, and then the Catholic bishops before COP21 all came out making a statement that put an end to the fossil fuel area and provide affordable and reliable and safe renewable energy. So that statement came out. So this is really an important response to the next phase about the urgent challenge to protect our common home, as Pope Francis has asked us, and to dare to discern what is happening in the different places where there is so much suffering to be our personal suffering, and to discover what each one of us can do to make a difference in the world in which we are living. So to do that, we have developed to the UISG, which is Religious Sisters and their board, to begin a campaign for 2 years on sowing hope for the planet. And our office, our JPIC office for both unions, are the leaders in bringing that out for the religious sisters. And so this has been moving, and it's a 2-year campaign, 2018 to 2020, and the proposal is, again, to involve in any way every single sister. Now, in the UISG, that's 500,000 sisters. Okay, so we're talking about doing things here, all right. And to give them an opportunity. The choice is there, but the opportunity, it will be there, okay, on this planet. Okay. So Pope Francis has underlined the connection between the environmental crisis and the social crisis, and we need to both make a personal conversion and a community conversion to work together, because everything is interconnected. And so we've had some training sessions, formation sessions. The UISG board came out with a statement saying that each of the religious congregations needs to have a contact person to help streamline this process. We are in collaboration with the Global Catholic Climate Movement. So we have the Global Catholic Climate Movement and the UISG and our office working together. Well, that's a fearsome group, Trinity. Okay, we're working together. So far we've had 4 webinars introducing the campaign. Then we had one about the conference some people referred to on Laudato Si, 3 years. And then inspiring stories and actions from around the globe. So it's an international interfacing with local and global concerns. The last one was on dealing with Poland, the COP24, this upcoming synod with the Amazon. The importance of the indigenous spirituality and how we can work together. We even had, one of an indigenous sister speaking, and also the process that they're using for the Amazon, the synod. This is critical for us, for what we're all doing going forward. And then an update what's happening, and we had the religious sister of the Sacred Heart talk about their community and the wonderful things that they're doing. So giving people ideas. And that's just kind of an idea of how we bring people on and bring the diversion communities. On the webinar, I think the most we had was like 230 that had signed up. So it's in different languages, and we offer that as something that we think is necessary. The Global Catholic Climate always has a segment on there, and then people have a chance to share their experiences. So what we're asking from each of the communities, because we're moving towards the plenary, which is in May, to send at 1 slide at least, but now we're getting quite a few now, about what they're doing, because we're going to try to make a video. This is the new website solely for the Sowing Hope for the Planet, www.sowinghopefortheplanet.org. It is in 5 languages: English, French, Spanish, Italian, and Portuguese. So that each segment has almost their own website. People are able then to upload anything that they're doing regarding parish work, anything in the schools, any advocacy, any local issues, any global concepts, how they are working as congregations. And these services then are available to look at, to choose, to decide what is it that we can do. Because it's about interconnecting with one another, to have a voice that is really strong and to speak it forward. That's on the website. Some of the things that we have in different languages mention the season of creation, so we can begin to look together. This is the website, the categories, so we try to have a slide for each of the areas. And then if you click on, like if you're in English and you click on one, you'll find out what it is in other languages, because some of the congregations are working in different languages. So the whole thing is, how can we work well together? What is the message that we need to give out? One of the days that we're focusing on is the Earth Day. So we're getting materials ready for that for people to begin to look at. And the first target point is that May, the General Superiors will be gathering in Rome, maybe about 800 of them. I mean, it's a large group they gather. They will come out with the statement at this meeting that will be accepted by the UISG board to say, what will we do going forward, because we have another year. And what is it? And at the end, we're looking at Laudato Si 5-year anniversary. I'm sure there's going to be something there. So what is it that we then can begin to decide as a group, pulling ourselves together to get the message out of religious congregations and all the contexts that they have to bring that forward. This is a look at the website that we have in the different languages. So that's the front page, but it's in all different languages when you turn that on. and just thank you for your support and all that you're doing. God bless you.